So I'm going to go into more detail on mixing here. I'm going to give you a couple of the key terms around mixing, many of which you've heard before, and a few definitions as to what they mean. So first up we've got balance, then we're going to cover off equalization or EQ, compression, effects, editing, and mastering. So balance is turning each instrument up and down until they sound about right. Some would argue that the entire process of audio engineering is balancing, and some people even call it balance engineering, where you've got a limited amount of space or sound space in which you can have all the instruments, and it's about balancing them so that each instrument is represented reasonably well, and the key instruments are louder and the not so key instruments are quieter, and obviously things you don't want at all are not turned up at all. Equalization or EQ. This is making the best bits of an instrument louder and the bad bits quieter. You will have used an EQ, no doubt, sometime in your life on a stereo or a device of some kind to turn the bass up and down or the treble up and down. Very common. The EQs in audio engineering, of course, are a lot more detailed, a lot more precise, and actually a lot of fun to play around with. Compression is taking an instrument that is quite dynamic, which means going from loud to quiet and making it less loud to quiet. It's a little trick where it pulls down the loudest parts of a sound and therefore makes the overall sound a little bit more consistent. This is commonly used in pretty much every instrument. Vocals, for example, if someone's singing, the loud parts of their vocals when you're standing next to them can be deafening, whereas a quiet part can be not quite nice and you'll lean into. On a recording it doesn't typically work like that. You typically, especially in pop, you typically have the volume of the singing around about the same throughout the entire song, with very slight variances. So again, you don't typically pull yourself away from the speaker when things get suddenly loud, and that's because of compression. So effects are messing around with an instrument in a cool way. There are many effects out there. Common one is distortion, which is commonly used on guitar, also on vocals and pretty much every other instrument out there, you'll be surprised to know. So distortion is something where it creates a harmonic, pleasant harmonics typically, and it naturally compresses the sound, so it gets rid of some of that dynamics, and gives a thicker sound. You could have delay, which is where someone says something or makes a sound like this, and it repeats. So for example, a delay could be whereas you can see I was only doing it once, but yet it was repeating itself naturally. Another effect could be reverb, which is where you add space to a room or to a sound to make it sound like it's in a different place or a different space, and it can also just create the fullness and warmth that you might want in your recording. There are many effects. So editing is where you cut words or notes or sounds out of a piece of recording, or putting words or notes in. You could re-record part of it if you stuffed up a performance, for example, or you might cut out swear words if someone they're recording, then you could cut out that swear word. There's all sorts of techniques that could be used there. And finally, mastering is giving the song a final dust off or polish. It can be where you'll bring the volume up to a consistent volume amongst all your songs, or if you want it to match the volume of some released artist's work, it could be where you want to give the songs a consistent kind of sheen or sound overall, as you will hear on albums when you've purchased albums in the past, that they all sound like they're from the same album, and yet the next album sounds different. That comes in the mastering process. It can also be the opportunity to control some parts of the song as a total thing. When you're mixing, you typically treat each element and you build each element into a song, whereas mastering, you might look more at the song itself and treat the song itself as something to edit and just tidy up a little bit.